Hi, Scott Orland with CINEMA-Magazin. The movie is 22 July. The director and the writer of the film is Paul Greengrass.
Hi.
Congratulations on the movie.
Thank you.
Obviously, sadly, throughout the world, there are many horrible, horrible events that happen. Why do you think this one cinematically worked for you?
Because I think that the democracies of the West are facing a rising problem with the extreme right wing, the violent extreme right wing force, and the story of how Norway faced it in 2011, how Norway fought for her democracy, is an ultimately inspiring story, and one I think that speaks to all of us, wherever we are, whether it's Germany or the UK or the US. It's a story of our times.
When you do a film like this, obviously you want to be as relevant to the facts as possible. There are some dramatic licenses you're going to take, but at the heart and soul are the real people, the people who went through the experience.
Of course.
How did you take that first step to talk to them and get them on board?
Well, that's the heart of making these films. You've got to ask permission from the people who are really involved. And the first thing I did was go to see actually Jens Stoltenberg, who now is obviously Secretary General of NATO, but then was Prime Minister of Norway. And I went to ask him if he thought it was a good idea. And I went to see him in Brussels, and I remember going into his office, and we sat down at the conference table, and I thought actually that I'd be a bit circumspect about asking his advice. Literally the first thing he said when he sat down was, obviously you've got to ask the families permission. He said, but I hope they give it to you, and I hope you make this film, because this is a big, big problem, and it's coming at all of the democracies of the West, and we're going to have to deal with it.
For you, obviously you're a filmmaker, you kind of prepare for what the event you're going to do, but you're still human, and you still have your own emotions.
So.
And when you have to step behind the camera the day you're recreating this horrific event, how do you walk your actors and your crew through something like that?
Well, it's a good question. I think a couple of things. First of all, you tell yourself that whatever your difficulties shooting the scene, that's nothing to what the people had to go through themselves. So, you have to keep it in perspective that way. Secondly, I decided to make this film in Norway with an all-Norwegian cast and crew. And that was an incredibly wonderful experience from my point of view, because they went through this experience, and really I was helping them tell their story, and they gave me a lead in a sense as to how to handle this material. And we knew that we had to be restrained and sensitive and honest, and I hope that we got it right, and I believe we have, because we've shown the families the film all around Norway, and I would say that that's the one thing they've complimented us on most.
For a little second about the duality of Paul Greengrass. That on one hand you do these amazing Jason Bourne type movies, action-packed, fun, popcorn, great movies. Then on the other hand, you've explored 9/11. You've explored now this horrific incident in Norway. Is there something that you need to pacify?
It's a good question. I mean, look, I think cinema can do lots of things, and that's the wonder and beauty of cinema. I love cinema as entertainment. I adore it. I love going on my own. I love going with my wife. I love taking my kids, and I'll go and see all sorts of movies, popcorn movies and action movies and adventure movies and romantic movies and, space movies, you name it, and I love them all. And I like to make films and think that there's a huge audience that go and see your movies on a Saturday night and love them. Love them as people love the Bourne movies, they're still on TV and, but there's a side of me, I suppose, going back to my days in documentaries, that needs from time to time to make a film about the way the world is. And I've done that. I mean, the last time I did it was in 1993, which I suppose is 11 years ago, something like that. And it's part of who I am as a filmmaker, and I wouldn't be being true to myself if I didn't make them from time to time. and the most important thing you can do as a filmmaker, the hardest thing actually, is to be true to yourself. I mean, if I go and talk at film school, I'll say to young filmmakers, be true to yourself. Make the film that only you can make. Try and find that. If you're true to yourself, you stand your best chance of connecting with an audience. If you're making a film that isn't true to you, a film you think you should make, or a film that you have to make, then you're not being true to yourself. And that's, I think, the first false move in the filmmaking process. Whereas if you aim for what is truly inside you, whether it's Jason Bourne and an entertainment choice, or 22 July because you feel very strongly about that, the way the world is at the moment, if you're honest and true, it comes over, I think, in the film.
Quick question for you, because wrapping me up. You filmed in Oslo and then in northern
Yes.
Norway. How cold does it get? I mean, do you have to deal with those
Damn
elements?
cold. Yeah, no, it's really cold. But it's also beautiful. I mean, Norway is one of the most spectacularly beautiful countries on earth, you know. And although the subject of the film is disturbing, you know, a right-wing terrorist attack, it doesn't get worse than that. Actually, the experience of making it was inspiring from first day to last. It was inspiring because everyone wanted to help. Everyone wanted to tell that story of how Norway fought for her democracy and bring it to a wider world, and believed in that idea. And it was inspiring because everyone was so good to me, you know, so giving, and then lastly because Norway is such a beautiful country, and her democracy is so beautiful, and her story is one that, whether you're in Germany or the UK or the US, we're living in such troubling times where democracy seems under threat in a way that I've never seen in my lifetime. That story is an inspiration. That's why I made it.
Thank you for sharing, Paul Greengrass, and this is Scott Orler. Until next time.